Well, hi, and welcome back to Elevate Up Podcast. For those that either are watching it on the YouTube channel or listen to it on the podcast, this is episode 3 with my good friend Charles Perry, as I call him Charlie or Dr.
Yeah,
Perry, or many names
absolutely.
you go by. And
Hey, thanks,
I'm
Steve.
ex yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you on my show. And a little bit about Charles Perry is he's the son of Stephen and Leslie Perry out of Vashon. How do you say it? Is it Vashon or Vashon Island?
Vashon, Vashon Island.
Vashon.
Yeah,
Vashon. Is
yeah,
that French? Vashon Island in Washington State, right across the bay from Seattle, right?
yeah, yeah.
With growing up with a brother Ryan, and that Charles has been married to Christy Perry. Oh my goodness, 27 years. Awesome. 27 years. Wow, wonderful years. Having 2 children, Jackson, who's 22, and Ellen, who's 20. And Charles loves the outdoors. That's an understatement. And sharing moments with friends and family. That he's blessed and with great health and able to really that he's able to study medicine and plastic surgery and still, right, after all these years, still
Yeah.
studying. And that you've owned what, Chrysalis Cosmetics for 18 years plus now, right?
Yeah,
Right, Charlie? And that you
yeah.
employ,
Thanks, Steve.
yeah, you employ 5 people really in the greater Sacramento area out in California, and where I had lived a good 17 years of my life and where I met you. And and I love how you put that you're grateful for your faith and love in life, and that you feel best when engaged with life. And we're going to jump into that a little bit today. This engagement with life, because how I met you was through your beautiful and wonderful, awesome wife, Christy, when I was doing some work with her in more of on a corporate level when I was working with a independent physician group. And I got a chance to meet Charlie through her, and she's just an extraordinary person. We'll get into that a little bit as we go along. But I got to meet Charlie at the time, and he's not like a physician I've ever met in my life. When I first met you, this is the physician part, and then when I got to know you, it was really the human being part of you. That I saw you outside of the title, the degree, the education, the all the accolades behind our name. I saw just who you were as Charlie. The human being factor of you really stood out to me as we've gotten a chance to do some work together since then over the years. You're the first person I think I exercised with, huffing and puffing, getting my heart rate up, and we're doing hills, and we're talking about leadership challenges, life challenges, home challenges, and that's part of life. And you really bring that, Charlie. So thank you for coming on to the Elevate Up podcast today, and welcome.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to communicate. You've been such a positive influence in my life and my wife's life, and it's nice that you've walked with us for the years. We just certainly miss meeting you, being with you in person, but this been making Zoom work, and since COVID, it seems like done a great job. My wife wanted me to make sure that I talk about my heritage. I have part of my heritage is from Canada, and my great grandfather was Chief Thomas Adolph of the Lillooet or Stacklemix tribe, Hockalip, and he's in 1911 he signed the treaty for the Fountain Band with the Canadian government, and so I'm really proud of that, and that's just part of my heritage. And then she also wanted me to make sure that I thank the Nisenan, the Miwok, and the Maidu people for allowing us to live in the American River Valley, and we're really grateful for that as well. So those were her additions to my. I ran by kind of the questions and things that we were gonna maybe go over today, and she wanted me to put that in. So I hope
I love that.
okay. But
No,
that's a part of my heritage I wanted to bring up that I'm really grateful for. I
perfect.
feel very
And
proud of.
thank you for sharing that, because one, nothing's off the table, and two, it's we're from today, like when this whole idea of what spawned me, my ideas of starting the podcast was just having conversations with what I call everyday heroes, right? And I consider you, Charlie, to be one of those in a profound way. And it's awesome to see what makes up Charlie Perry, Charlie, what really makes up who you are as a human being, as a father, as a husband, as a physician and a plastic surgeon running your business, as a leader in your business, running with the manager and a team, on the patient care side of things, really the whole person to you. And I'm glad that you added that piece in, because it's really the makeup of who we are. I think sometimes people go, oh, it must be nice to be like them, or oh, they're lucky, or I could never do that or be like that. And I'm hoping from today people get a chance to see really who you are, kind of the, as we peel back the artichoke, onion doesn't have anything special in the middle, but the artichoke has this beautiful heart. As we peel it back, right, Charlie? People get to see
Yeah.
really who you are. And I get to see front row seats with popcorn every time I meet with you. It's like, oh, this is good, right? This is an awesome story. This is better than movies. This is better than reading any good book. Is just watching your story unfold, and also giving them hope too, that hey, there's people that don't realize that there's a lot more opportunity, more possibility than they realize when they step into somebody they can relate to. They can take a piece of what they hear from you today and go, you know what, there's maybe something I can pull from that maybe I wasn't considering. Maybe I was not really paying attention to. Maybe it was a spark of a thought that you inspired someone. But really, and so that's my hopes today, is that people get to see you, and really, and also see that there's so much life to live, and you are that. And I can't wait to just dive into what makes that in you.
All right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
think about this for you. I know I love how we talk about our heroes in our life, or who's our hero. Like when you're a kid, mine was Superman, right? And who
Yeah.
is who is maybe a hero for you that you looked up to as a kid, or maybe even now? Shoot, I still like Rocky Balboa. Still will watch.
um, I think I have lots of different heroes,
Mhm.
and I kind of like pick from different parts of my life, and I
Mhm.
think that sometimes it's it's a you know like my wife a lot of times is my hero, like how she
Mhm.
has been able to keep reinventing herself, from when we first met. She was an electrical engineer, taking on her first job working, building those missiles that were the Patriot missiles that Israel just used against Iran. She was working on those guidance systems when we met, and it was and since then she's gone and done different things, from quitting her job and raising our children to uh, helping me open up my private practice,
Mhm.
getting an MBA, getting her master's in public health. Now she's getting
Mhm.
her PhD at 52 years old. She's but in ways, her resilience, and her ability to go on and to not be stuck in I am this as a
Yeah.
and being her job, as opposed to like being these different roles. I have these gifts. These are my gifts, and maybe that's management for her, or communicating with people, or continually learning. But she hasn't been pinned in, and so I think
Mhm.
she's one of my heroes for sure. And growing up, my dad was a hero. His silence, and his grit, and he he was in the food. He was he grew up on a farm in Walla Walla, Washington, and
Mhm.
he went to college, and got a degree in food science, and really worked with food processing. And I remember making freeze dried food for the spaceships in the 70s, and then
Mhm.
in the 80s he worked for the fish company, and then they went bankrupt, and he was like, God, I don't, I want to work for myself. And so he tried to sell houses, didn't sell one for a year. Then he went into commercial real estate, didn't rent or sell anything for another year. So and those are tough times. My mom went back to work at that time, but he never gave up. Like he just kept
Mhm.
reinventing himself, and discovering what his gifts were. And so a real hero. There wasn't much a monetary success during those times, but the fact that he just kept grinding, if you will,
Mhm. Yeah.
and was able to get into insurance, and did well for our family. So I have lots of heroes and lots of different ways of life, but
Mhm.
and I certainly, as raising kids, you see a lot of their teachers and things, but even just my kids are sometimes my hero in the sense that they just enjoy life and see it in such a different way. Steve, they have that curiosity.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
remember when we first met, I asked you, Steve, what is success to you? And how do you find, like what is it some money thing I need to make per year? Is there some goal I need to hit? You go, you just need to stay curious, Charlie. And it's
Mm,
always stuck with me. And I think back and I see my children and I see that curiosity in them and how that gives them such an engagement in life. And I've just have always that anyway, so they're heroes in a way for me. And I've watched your journey over the last, I don't know how long we've worked together, what, 5, 6 years.
uh-huh. Yeah.
It's yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. And I see you, from going from having no children, no Savannah, or just Savannah, right? I think it was just
Uh-huh.
Savannah when we met, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, but now we have Caleb and Levi, and
Yes.
anyway, moving from Auburn to Florida, it's like, oh my gosh, you lift up your practice and you're making a go of it. And that's such courage, Steve, and so you're a hero for me, like to
Wow.
be able
Thank
to
you.
switch and change direction when you
Mm,
have everything set up, but you did it for your family, and that greater sense of purpose that you show. It's inspiring, and I just
mm.
it's a real blessing to have people like you in my life, and there's certainly others, and it really depends on the situation that I'm in. But you
Mhm.
draw from different people in
Yeah.
different moments.
Wow, thank you. I mean, I'm humbled by that. Wasn't expecting that today. I'm like, this is about you, Charlie. But what thank you. I received that and how exciting with Christy, your wife 27 years and maybe longer if if you count the dating time, right, with her and
Sure.
your grandfather, right? And
Yeah.
seeing coming growing up and seeing him work hard, reinventing himself. When you mentioned a word there, I was thinking about your superpower, right? And you mentioned a word grinding. And I'm curious with how that relates with you, with how you show up too, with Christy, how she's constantly voraciously learning and growing and doing, and your grandfather who's grinding. There's grit. There's a steadfastness. Where do you see that show up for you?
Oh man, that's my superpower, Steve. I
Mhm.
can, one of the things I do for fun is multi-sport, like the Ironman and stuff, and it's not going the one who doesn't go it it's not slowing down. Like, it's not
Mhm.
going the fastest that he wins you the race, but it's not giving up. It's staying there, and so
That's it.
yeah, and so whether it be, through my surgical residency, back in the day when I walked, both ways uphill in the snow to get to school. No, but we used to work, 48 hours on, and you were upset that you had your 6 to 8 hours off, and you missed half the admits that when you were off from the trauma service, and you know uh yeah, really developed a sense. You didn't have to be perfect, but you had to
Mhm.
keep trying, and you were going
Ah,
to make mistakes, and you were going to people were going to die, and you were going to lose them, and but you could learn something from that experience and from the gifts that they gave you, and to
mhm.
take that forward, and to carry that into your next interaction, and
Mm.
it wasn't, if you quit, then you lost. But if you kept going, you could have success. And I think that was really, grounded me from, I mentioned my grandfather. He was, his childhood. He was brought up. The government would come by, the Catholic Church and the government in Canada would come by to their village at the end of summer and pick up the kids in this truck, and take them away to this. They call them, I think they're called boarding schools
Mhm.
in Canada, and they couldn't speak their language. They couldn't. There was never enough food, and they're taken away from their parents, and
Mhm.
it was pretty rough going, and he never gave up. Like, he found that and that school went through 8th grade, but he left after 6th grade and went and worked in the mines, and then he lied about his age, and he joined up for World War II and became
Mhm.
a paratrooper, and was a Marine, and then went through, finished his, came back to the GI Bill, and went to the UW met my grandmother, and he worked 3 jobs to support their family after World War II. So a teacher, driving bus, and teaching driver's ed and coaching, and there was never a give up, and it was never quit. And he just kept finding new ways to engage that were successful. And I think, knowing that where you come from and knowing what your background is kind of helps sometimes too. And so I don't know. I guess that's that grit, or that keep going.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I love what I hear in there is one, UW, for all those that don't know who that is, University of Washington Huskies, go Huskies.
Go Dogs, yeah.
Right? And almost won the national championship. We were close, Charlie. That's a whole nother
that was such
story.
a team. Oh my God, what a team.
We were close. That was awesome. But
you see that? Roma Dunze, they drafted the first round. Penix drafted the first round. The other 2 receivers were drafted too in the second and third. Unbelievable.
And we're excited. The reason why we're excited about that, for all those that don't know the Huskies, is because they're not like the Alabama Crimson Tide or these other teams that you might see on the top all the time. And so for them going from maybe underperforming to potentially overperforming and then performing at a high level in a short amount of time is a testament to, really goes along with what Charlie's saying about this idea of grit, never giving up, keeping moving forward. I hear this word persistence, this tenacity from your grandfather, from Christy. I know it from her, from you, really, that notice we recognize in others. This is key. What we see, we recognize in others what we already possess in ourselves. Just sometimes we're too humble to admit it. Go like, yeah, I'm not that, but you are, right? I am those pieces because I can recognize who I am through the life of others. And a lot of times through people before us, father, grandfather, great grandfather, and I think that's a really cool way to see, because what I see in you too, and I've known you for several years, is this voracious learner. I always feel lazy in the learning category when I go, hey, here's a book I have. You're like, read it. Here's a podcast. Yeah, I read that. I listened to that one. I go, dang, man, you're on it. Like, you are voraciously hungry. Like you said, never slowing down. And I'm curious, has that always been in you, as you mentioned, like even just from heritage to to your wife example, modeling it to how you learn even in your process of being a doctor in medical school? Is that something that just came to you one day? Is it something that's been with you as a kid, all throughout time? Where's that drive, that hunger? Where does that come from?
Yeah, it feels like it's always been with me. It feels like it walks with me. That and maybe it's the if you ask good questions. It's hard to say a moment I had that I didn't think that I didn't want to try my best. Like I didn't want to I read Pete Carroll talks about this, always compete. And I feel like maybe that was my childhood. Like I always wanted to be the best. Like I always, if I was going to play foursquare or croquet, it's like I wanted to win, because that meant I was, and maybe it was that thing of I wanted to be good enough. I wanted to be seen, to be recognized. And I think that that's changed over time. The motivation to but and now I want to help others be seen. Now I want to help others be great. Now I want to, but when I first started out, I think it was more, like I wanted to be that, maybe in my, teens and 20s, and it's changed. I think when you have children, you want them to be great. You want them to, and I think that goes into, maybe some of our work together. You've helped me see that, like that, stepping into that leadership is like, it's not necessarily about your recognition, but you're trying for others to get recognized, to be seen, and that's much more fulfilling than that. And I think that's the part that always makes me want to never give up. What can I read today? What knowledge can I share with others to help elevate them? I'm in such I'm so grateful for the position I'm at, that I am able to read, that I'm able to have these great people in my life, and that I want to share that with others. And so I don't know if that, but it's that feeling of connection
Hmm.
and giving to somebody, like that feeling of love, if you will. I mean, it really boils
Mm.
down to like sharing that with others. Just,
Mm.
it just, it fills me up, Steve. And so that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's the drive. Is like, I want
Hmm.
more of that. I want more of that good feeling,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So it's almost like a dopamine hit, kind of like a runner's high but in the world of relationships, like a
Yeah.
relationship dopamine high, like a relational deposit, as John Gottman would say, right? In the marriage
Yeah.
expert, like when I'm putting these deposits
Absolutely.
into others, I feel really my cup is filled back up. And I love what you're saying though. It's kind of like being the player in the game, being the one that's like, I'm carrying the football, but there's now a time where you're the one helping others that are carrying the football do it well also. And so it's a different kind of mindset where it's like, okay, I'm not always carrying the football, but my son or daughter might be carrying it. So I'm going to help them carry it well on what I've learned over my life. Right. And it's kind of like
Right.
think about this. You mentioned World War II. It's like I'm watching Masters of the Air with the B-17 bombers and the newcomers will come and replace. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that died during that. I think 14% of the Air Force 100 survived. Right. And so you see new guys coming in and take over, and they see the guys that are still alive and, the goal is 25 missions and they're done, but nobody hardly makes it to that. But you could see how they hold them in high esteem. Like, wow, you must know something I don't. What can I learn from you? One, so I can survive, but like, you're a rock star. Like there's something that I want to learn, like this mentoring. And that's kind of what I think of you as, like this, you've been in the fire, you've been doing the repetitions long enough to be able to now serve and support and lead others from that place of having gone the way and shown the way, like certainly you have with Ellen and Jackson, no doubt, right? And certainly with Christy too. And I see the both way. I get the chance to have the privilege of having known the both of you, and it's cool to see how it's the beauty of both way, the both and right of how you impact each other. Um, I love how you talked about Christy earlier. Has there been anybody else that's been influential? Who's in your grandfather too? Has anybody else been influential in your journey of who you become and who you're still becoming? Who else has been influential in your life? Or maybe it's people, maybe it's could be somebody from your past, but it could be somebody current too, Charlie.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, I mean, I mentioned, you've been very influential in my life. So, I mean,
Hmm.
that's it's first and foremost. But
Hmm.
family certainly is, and I mentioned, Christy and my grandfather, and my dad, and certainly
Hmm.
my mom as well. But like as far as plastic surgery goes, like professionally, I had a professional one of my Dr. Rothkopf and Dr. Dunn were very influential plastic
Hmm.
surgeons for me, and I really look forward to interactions with them
Yeah.
in the community. I have Dr. House, Dr. Lee, Dr. Clark, and Dr. Vento. I am so grateful for their interactions and being able to bounce ideas off them.
Hmm.
Uh, and the in my personal life, my buddy Paul and Christian have really been helpful, in relationship. I like the way that they handle themselves
Hmm.
with others and how they connect to other people. And yeah, and I have a buddy Richard and Jesse and Michelle, and we get together. We do these triathlons together, and it's fun to see their lives and again to like, hey, I'm struggling with this. What do you guys, it's fun to have
Yeah.
those interactions, right? um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love
so
that. It's like doing life together, right? And I love what you
yeah.
said, triathlons. You really hit on something there that I think I got to see firsthand is this continuation of growing and going after not triathlons just for the sake of triathlon and just being in shape, but really there was something more there, right, Charlie? That I love it. You maybe get excited about getting older, that getting older can be more youthful because of the way that you have gone after triathlons, develop friendships like you just mentioned. Is there a key to that as people are listening to this and they go, what helps me maybe get more curious, more youthful, more energetic, more excited about life as I get older? Is there things that you do in your morning routine, do you have a daily rhythm? What's some of the things that you do that are a key contributor to that?
Yeah, God, as you get older, you got to be more intentional, Steve. I mean, that's, time gets away. Like I love sitting on the couch and watching a basketball game or a football game, but man, like you really realize as you get older that you're missing out on either being with the family or getting to run and being in nature or and so there's trade-offs and so being
Yeah.
intentional. And I think for me and triathlon's kind of the part of that is like it gives you kind of a uh, an opportunity to see how you're taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
from a physical standpoint. And so, in order to do it, you need to get the right amount of sleep. You need to get the right foods, and you need to have the right mindset. And that can only happen if you're intentional with your time and your energy.
So,
And so, my routine is like I wake up like this morning's class. I get up at 5. I'll have a feed the cat, get a shot of espresso, and I was at the track doing 400s repeats, and then
mm,
got back, for by the time so my wife gets up and we have oatmeal together, and before waking up have some meditation or prayer time, before I hit the track, so that by the time I have breakfast and everything, I've already completed some big parts of my day and feel
mhm.
successful already. So no matter
Wow.
what part of my day I control at work or all the things that I don't control, I've already had that touch in with Christy, had that touch in with my spirit life, and have had that
Mhm.
physical expression. So that
Mm.
whatever else happens, I've already feel successful, and then I've already filled my cup, if you will, for
Yeah.
the rest of the day. And so and
Yeah.
then it's just making sure you get to bed on time and eating the rest of the day, and then the rest you ate. Throw me some unpredictability and
I
throw some
love
things that
that.
I don't control. It's okay. I can deal with it now. And so that's kind of my rhythm, if you will, and that's what really
That's
has helped me.
that's what really strikes me about you, that I love interviewing you, is that piece in you. I rarely find it to that level in most human beings, Charlie, is in order to be prepared for, and this is key for a lot of people that listen to this, that really maybe you kind of go through with maybe not as intentional as they could be. Maybe that's encouragement to say there's a daily rhythm to waking up and taking care of myself physically, taking care of my relationships, marriage, kids, and family and friendships, taking care of my spirit life, my purpose, my giftings, my talents. Am I using them to bless others, to give to others? And that you're touching into those three, as my good friend Jim Urban, that you'll hear from him too, Charlie. He calls it his 3 pillars, and I thought, well, isn't that funny? They both said personal, like wellness, relationships, and spiritual. I thought, oh, so there's like a rhythm, there's a commonality, a common factor, like you said, already getting a win. That's key. Already getting a win. It's like this dosage of confidence. Already getting a win for the day before the day's really started. An intentional practice. And there's something key that you said there, I think was really hit me, was preparing for, I call it preparing for the unknown, the mystery, and the uncertainty. But in your words, like preparing for the challenges, preparing for like you're a Navy SEAL, I'm welcoming the challenge. I'm welcoming the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever the day brings. Charlie, I would love you to speak more into that. That's not a lot of people welcome challenge. They want to run from challenge. But as you're talking about this morning routine, the kind of this rhythm of life, preparing you for this unknown challenge, what would you say in that context where that the possibility that people can welcome the uncomfortable, welcome something that is they're not going to have the answers to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, Steve, that's what drives life. I mean, it's that unknown. I don't want to like,
Mhm.
it's not boring. Like, and the unknown, the challenges, the change that's always coming, and then the change seems to be speeding up in my life. I mean, a lot of my professors and people that I learned from and role models, leaders did the same thing the same way for
Mhm.
years, and they would tell me this, and I was like, wow, that's lucky you. I haven't been able to do that not one year, not one day in my life. It seems like everything, being a small business owner, maybe that's what it is. Maybe if I worked at a big corporation, I think, actually I tried that and it wasn't for me to have it the same way, the same every time. So I think maybe it's a personality thing, but I love being engaged and I love trying to problem solve and I love the unpredictability of it. And so for me, I look forward to that because it challenges me to
Mm.
continue to read, to grow, to ask questions, to be curious, like you said. And that's, it
Hmm.
gets back to um, um, what we were originally talking about and like, the joy of life is,
Yeah.
you know,
It's almost like keeping yourself as the 5-year-old version of Charlie, right? This
yeah,
voracious,
I wish. Yeah.
curious learner that only excels as you learn more. The more it's kind of like the older I get, the less I know, and the more hunger I am to learn. What a
Right.
think about mastery. The word popped up in my head as you're speaking is this idea of mastery versus perfection, right, Charlie? As I see this idea of mastery, where I'm not getting pummeled and feel like I'm getting kind of beat down and thinking I'm behind the eight ball and I'm not hitting my goals. It's more of a I already started with all that I needed for today. I'm packing it in. And then now I get to just go launch and see what happens and see what I can create. And this idea of mastery that I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I love something that you said was really key with me that you had written to me just as we were preparing for this was something about this idea of not, is the only tough day was yesterday. And next time, when we start, again, why not me? Right? You and I
Yeah.
both love this. Why not me from Russell Wilson, one of our
Yeah.
favorite athletes that he's
Yeah.
gone through his own trials, tribulations. Here he has a fresh start at Pittsburgh. And I felt like your life is, sometimes we go through ups and downs, don't we, in practice, Charlie? And I'd love to hear a little bit of that. Like what's prepared you for this buoyancy in as a plastic surgeon when you have high seasons just with meeting your goals and then seasons where it's like shoot man, we're not anywhere near my goal, but the living your life in a way like as we're talking about with this curiosity, with this persistency, with this never giving up, with what can I learn from this, stepping in the challenge. How's that really helped you in really seasons in your practice where you faced plenty and you faced scarcity on both ends?
Well, it's, I'm always learning, and uh, who was, Russell Wilson had a coach and he passed recently. I'm blanking on his name. Um,
Trevor
he
Moawad
was
or the mental conditioning
Trevor
coach?
Moawad. Trevor
Uh-huh.
Moawad. Yeah. So he has this great book, and I think you turned on me. But I think we both read it, right?
Hmm.
It's it's never like his, because Trevor Moawad's dad was like everything's positive. You could just think positive; it'll all be positive, right?
Bob Moawad, yeah, positive
Bob
thinking.
Moawad, yeah,
Hmm.
just famous for that. And I grew up with like Bob Moawad kind of coaching and philosophies and stuff. But Trevor, I think had maybe a little bit easier, and it's like it's never good or bad. He talked about like what was that? What was he called it something
This neutral
uh,
thinking.
neutral thinking. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
not it's not good. It just is, and so like financially this year has been really difficult. 2007 was really difficult and didn't meet any financial goals. Wasn't able to be generous to staff. Wasn't able to do things with the family. It didn't live up to the financial benchmarks that I would like to.
Mhm.
And this year has been difficult. I don't, and you don't control so many things, but it just is, and
Mhm.
it's not, and so if I can have neutral thinking, if I can get to that, like, then I can move forward as opposed to getting stuck and ground in. So I think Trevor might put best in the neutral thinking and trying to be
Mhm.
in that way of life, because unless I quit, I can be successful today, tomorrow, the next day, you know, even if I don't meet the goal today. And what did I learn? And
Mhm.
that's that time to reflect and meditate and think about, it's looking back and it's taking an assessment. Okay, maybe I didn't meet that goal, but I've learned a
Mhm.
different way, or I'm trying something new. I'm
Mhm.
growing, I'm stretching, and I'm going to be prepared the next time. And
Mm.
so those are the things where I try to, if you will, get a different perspective on it, even
Yeah.
though it wasn't what I expected. It doesn't make me feel good. And my ego is really suffering. But
Hmm.
and that's the thing. Like if I can just let go of that gosh darn ego, sometimes it's actually not as bad. Or and being humbled is really a great way to be. Like
Hmm.
you can learn so much more. Um,
Yeah, amen to that. And you're right. I think that's maybe the hardest thing that we in life we have. Like, I feel probably every day as a parent. Many things I do that I go, oh, I could have probably said that differently to Savannah and Caleb,
yeah.
right? I could have reacted differently to Allison than I
Oh
did,
yeah.
or right.
Oh
And
god.
but I love what you say in there. It's like there's always the next opportunity to say, you know what? How can I learn from this? What can I learn? In fact, like you said, and even in faith or in our walk in our daily walk and growing spiritually, sometimes it's the harder things, the challenges that help us really grow the most, right? We lean into a little bit more. Sometimes when life is cushy and plush, we go, well, I don't really need to focus on those things until something happens. You go, oh, maybe there's some areas that I've forgotten, or maybe, like you said, the ego has gotten in the way of really the spirit within me, the tools that God's given me already naturally, that I don't need to try to be anybody other than myself. I don't need to earn worthiness. I have it already. And
Yeah.
thank you for the ego check, where it's like, thank you for the challenge, right? It's almost, but that idea, like I love what you're saying, where this helps me see things I could not have seen otherwise. And even though it's disappointing and even though it sucks in the moment, it's not the end of the story yet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So now with success to you, kind of looking at where has success shifted as far as what you see, say success, whether it's homework, business, all of it together, from what you used to maybe saw success as a young medical
Yeah,
student
no, and
to
when I got
now.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's for sure. I saw success when I got out of residency. Listen, residency was 7 years of 100 some hour plus weeks, and I was like, I'm going to buy a big house. I'm going to get a big TV. I'm going to get a nice car. And man, I did all those things, and man, I was more unhappy, Steve,
Mm.
than I was when I was working 100 plus hours a week. And I was more anxious and nervous um, and really not living very healthy and not being true to myself. It really pulled me away. This idea of individualism and consumerism was really like I got moved away from my faith, moved away from my family. Christy and I weren't very close. And it was about looking the part, being the doctor, being the plastic surgeon,
Mm.
having the plastic surgeon wife, having her drive the right car, go to the right schools, all of these things. And I was doing this all for I don't know who, but it wasn't for me or the
Mm.
kids or my wife. And and so through those, like if you will, come to Jesus moments, or failures in my marriage, I really took it kind of took a different course. And whether it be but being more authentic and being more
Hmm.
true. And like what really makes me happy and what's really important in my life is the connections, if you will, and the time with family and friends and colleagues, and being able to share this experience and live life with others, not
Yeah.
separate, not judging them and not judging myself so much, but like realizing and having grace, and hubris, if you will. Brene Brown talks about living that, the authentic life, or
Hmm.
like a lot of these different people that I've read. Like there's another. I always reading these books for you, but I got to get one to you called Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg.
Oh, I have that on my list, my wish list. I got to pull it up now. It's moving up,
I got to
Caleb.
send it to you. I've been meaning to send it to you, but yeah, just anyway, he has the afterwards or an epilogue, and he talks about the great study where they studied these Harvard people, and at the end of their life, these Harvard men, like the ones that did the best, were the ones that had the best relationships in their life. They lived the longest, right? It wasn't about
Hmm.
what they ate, it wasn't about what they did. It was the people that had faith and friendship in their life, and I think that's what success looks like to me. Is that like
Yeah.
having 5 or 6 people I could call. or one or two that I could call anytime, at any time, and they would have time for me, and they would make that
Yeah.
time. That
That's
that to
so
me is
it's
success. So
That's powerful. So what I hear there is the people around you. It's people in your life. It's the people in your life team, the people in the boat with you as like, I don't know if you saw the movie Boys in the Boat and they all rowed together or they're in it together. What I hear you is like we're not there's no self-made millionaire, self-made independent practitioner. I'm on the top of the mountain all by myself. There is no such
yeah,
thing, right?
no, it doesn't
There's
exist. Yeah.
And I love what you said there. Like, and one of the things that really stood out to me as you're saying that is the people around you that are just like Christy, for instance, and her voraciousness, going back and getting her PhD, right? And
Yeah.
both of you getting younger as you're getting older because it's in here and you're applying that and you're living that. And the way that the two of you are going for like how you're learning through the setbacks, the failures, the hiccups, and how you're moving forward because you have the key relationships to remind you of who you are and say, hey, let's get back up. Let's do this again. You do that for me too, even though we've coached over the years. I thought, well, Charlie, you're probably coaching me more than you realize because I get to see how you live your life and how you model and that's one of the things that excited me about interviewing you today was seeing you without the title, the degree, the education, the accolades. Like you said, you went for the money at first. I love how we get to see just you. And it's cool because you could always flip that out if you wanted to, right? Be like, I'm the MD, don't you know who I am? And then it's like, well, would feel weird, right? Because you're that authentic human being. And I think that's what makes your profession even more powerful because of that servant leader, that the way that you show up in that way. And you got me, I was really curious about this too from you. You're one of the people that I'm really curious, and it's really neat to see like some of the important lessons that you've learned from learning from others. And I'd love to hear you expand on what that's been like. I know you're, in California and with those lots of ideas back and forth, and Kim's, Christy's been in the thick of, with the things that she's been a part of with nonprofits. And I'm just curious, like, how have you learned to learn and this idea, I don't know where the word open-mindedness comes in to play, but the way that you were able to see different perspectives is really a high level leadership to me. How did you come to that point and what does that look like for you? How do you live by that every day? Like what is it something that you have to prepare for? Is it just come natural? How do you keep yourself open-minded? Because we're in a culture today or a world that you see it on the news that's really lost their way in understanding people of opposing ideas or you name it, and they don't do it well. And that's something that I think could be practiced, and you do this really well.
I, yeah, non-judgment. You read a lot of books, and the common theme that a lot of them have, and I can't, but I can't remember the name, but
Mhm.
practicing non-judgment and is really freeing because it allows a greater connection with that. And yeah, I mean, and maybe it's just because I've gone into plastic surgery and
Mhm.
um, if I was judging people I'm caring for, I might get really jaded. But when you sometimes you have to um, develop, if you will, maybe an empathy or try to
Mhm.
walk in their shoes for a
Mhm.
minute. That's just faith in the growing up in the Catholic Church. I think too. Like how do you judge another person until you've had their experience, and how can you really have their experience? It's really really challenging, and I've
Yeah.
I've really had to work at this in my life, not to judge
Mhm.
before, and seeking understanding first about where they're coming from or why they're having this experience, because um, at least in my life and in what I've read and how I've lived, it seems like we're all more very similar. We all,
Yeah.
we all, we all fight loneliness. And we all want to be seen, and we all want to serve, and um, and sometimes we've had some traumas in our life that block us
Yeah.
from getting there, or that create this fear, and so we sometimes we'll try to cover that, and maybe it's just, I don't know, Steve. I hope I'm answering your question. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
rambling rambling on
No,
going on every tangent
this is
known to
huge
man.
because it's something a lot of people struggle with today, especially, we've probably in all human history, but today particularly as we've become more tech savvy, social media, more distance. Like I remember, I'll never forget this at the beginning of COVID or during the middle of it. You're like, Steve, do you think we'll ever go back to hugging? And gonna go, Charlie, is that natural for you? Yeah. I go, well, you can't got that out of a person. That's natural in you, right? We might scared for a little bit, but after a while, you're like,
Yeah,
screw it, I'm gonna hug you anyways, right?
yeah,
Because that's your natural
yeah.
bend. And so, but that's kind of where I think what's valuable as you're sharing that is it's really a lost art, of really seeking to understand. Like, and even Stephen Covey speaks about it in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. He's so, it's such a big deal. Seek first, understand, then be understood. And I think that's an area that you really lead well, and that's an area that I'd see you even mentoring more in the future, because you really do
Mm,
lead that by example without even you realizing it maybe as much as I see it in you, because we do too much of judging, and usually where judging an assumption comes is when the further we get from conversation with someone, right? Like, hey, tell me about where you're from, tell me your background, like you talked about from your heritage from Canada, like tell me more about this, and we're probably more connected than we realize if we were just to sit down and have a meal, break bread together, share coffee, go for a beer, go for a run. If we were to
yeah.
do life together, we'd be surprised. And you really, I think, even though it's been hard work, it's practice. It's a real intentionality, like you mentioned. But I think that's really a key element to 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 you and your impact
Oh,
on
thank you, Steve. Thanks for
your
seeing that.
family, your business, your
Thank you.
marriage. And so,
God,
yeah,
it's
you're
filling me
welcome.
up, man.
Well, you already filled me up. My cup is full with good Charlie
Yeah,
Perry, and so
thank you.
I'm glad it does, because it's like I said, this interview is really a gratitude in honoring who you are and how you've been showing up today, and how you're continuing to really, like you said, never slowing down, never giving up. How you're showing that that we can, that other people can show up even as we age, that life can get better, not bitter, not our best is behind us, our best is before us. And so as we kind of round the bend today with now where you're at in the season of your life, what's next for you, whether it's business or family or triathlons? What are you excited about that's maybe next in this season for you?
Yeah, I think more mentoring, more more teaching, more coaching, something where I can um, have more time to share with others, like
Mhm.
maybe the younger generations, or people that are curious, uh, share experience, and maybe walk with them, and help them. I think that's what I want to step into, and I have to figure out the medium for that. I'm watching you curiously, seeing how this all of these new ways of doing this is works for you, because that's something I think I'd really love to do at this season of my life. That
Yeah.
feels more meaningful than what I've been doing lately. So
Yeah, how awesome is that? And you've been that from the first time I've met you. Was I always go, man, you'd be an awesome mentor. Oh, you'd be an excellent just for somebody to be under your apprenticeship, where it's the career or just just being a leader in the home front or taking care of yourself on the personal wellness side of it. Uh, that's an area that I think you would make an instant impact, right? And nothing else you need to do other than just, to have people that are in front of you that say, "Hey, will you mentor me, Charlie?" It's like, sign me up. I get to be first in line,
yeah,
especially on the per triathlon. Charlie actually got me doing my first, so far my only triathlon, but it won't be the end of it. I have to work
yeah,
on my swimming dearly, but you helped me, encourage me for my first triathlon, and I dare to say that you actually helped me with my first ultra. I don't know if I would have done it just because I read about David Goggins. It
yeah. That
actually
was
was
so
because I
cool.
saw you living it out, and I go, look what Charlie's doing. Maybe it's
I can't believe,
possible. Maybe
yeah,
it's possible.
you
Yeah.
man, you did it. I just still inspired by that. watching you
Yeah.
cruise that track. I mean, oh my God, 24 hours solid, man.
Thank you. Well,
Ah,
the hardest part was probably the monotonous of it. I didn't realize that when I signed up for it. I go, maybe I should have chose trails on the trees and a different scenery. But I think that was part of what you've taught me is the mentality that throw a track, throw a trail, throw life at me. There are new kids that you've seen come into my life. You've really taught me through example, Charlie, how to not just take that on through a place of suffering, but really take it on as a place of surrender, that I welcome it, that I prepare for it. I do my daily work and my life as my spiritual growth, my faith, my marriage, like you've been married to Christy, right? 27 years plus, and your kids are thriving and as young adults, and how you're doing, of course, on the personal wellness side. And so Charlie, how can people follow you, find you? Where can people find you? And I'll make sure I add it to the show notes.
okay, yeah. My business website is sacramentoplastics.com and sacramentoplastics.com. And, my email address is linked to that. It's a DRC Perry at sacramentoplastics.com. So I think those are
Awesome.
the easiest ways. So,
Okay.
yeah, thanks so
I'll add
much,
those
Steve.
in.
Yeah, it's really
You
great.
got
Yeah.
it. You got
Yeah,
it.
it's really
It's a
great to
pleasure.
chat with you. I always feel more elevated being with you than before. So it's just you're such a blessing in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And likewise, you've been a major blessing for me too. And so it's an honor to spend this time with you today. And I hope it, those that listen to it, I hope it serves them. But really, I know for you and I, we're better
Yeah.
for it as we're elevating up together. So I hope you
Thank
have
you.
a beautiful rest of your week, beautiful spring, going into summer, and
Oh
getting
yeah.
outside as you always do and enjoying nature. And we'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon. Okay, brother?
Okay. All right.
All right. Take care now.
Sure.
Bye.